What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Cover Band Confidential podcast, the podcast for cover band musicians and band leaders to learn some new tricks and to find a better way. Here in Atlanta, Georgia, I am Adam Johnson.
And here in Greensboro, North Carolina, I'm Dan Ray.
So did you survive the hurricane flow?
We did. We swam out of it. It's there was some flooding here in town, and the rain was pretty serious on Sunday. None of it impacted me all that directly. I was dealing with a housebound 5-year-old all weekend, which
that's probably worse than
something of a hurricane in and of itself. But apart
thanks,
from that,
I'll take a hurricane, please.
Yeah, really. No, we got through it good. It was all fine, and sunny skies out there now and looking beautiful. So.
Yeah, we got maybe a couple of the outside bands that hit us on Saturday, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. But yeah, so no gigs this weekend, basically.
No gigs this weekend. Everything was canceled up good, but you had a big weekend.
Yes. So we did Fanny Pack Friday on Friday, and we had a private event on Saturday. So this weekend was kind of a stressful point for me because, one, we were doing a ticketed event, which is, we're kind of relying on our own steam, and we had two subs. Sub bass player and sub drummer, which normally would never happen. But our drummer had spinal surgery, and while he is doing very well, he wasn't up to doing the challenge. The sub that we got is an intern for our front of house guy who happens to be 18 years old. So 80s and 90s, not really his wheelhouse, coming in pretty dry, but. They put the work in, and playing wise, things went pretty good.
Good.
Now Friday, we were going into it pretty strong. We had sold out of tables and banquets, which were the two tops, and had some booths available. But pre-sales were a little ahead of where they were last time, so I was thinking, we were in good shape. What we ended up experiencing was that pre-sales were basically the entire attendance of the show. There was not a very strong walk-up component like there was last time, and I was paying these guys a flat rate because they were subs, and they don't have the buy-in that the other guys in the band would normally have. So when it was all said and done, I didn't just play for free. We lost money on that gig, covering for the other guys, which is pretty demoralizing, disappointing. But there were, besides the hurricane and it being the same weekend as Music Midtown in Atlanta, there was a lot of stuff going on. And we should have known better. There's definitely some lessons learned there. And, we'll have to do a postmortem on, moving forward, how we kind of retool the event. I still think the event as a concept has legs. I think the branding's good. I think the concept's good. We just have to, we have to make sure that we don't lose our shirts every time we pull this thing off.
Sure. So what do you, I know you maybe haven't dug into it as much as you intend to, but just at the first cut of it, what would you say is the cause of the difference between the two times out on it?
Honestly, I think it was just the date. Music Midtown in Atlanta is a huge deal. And while it wasn't happening the night that we were playing, it was happening the next day, and it's an all day event. And it was like, and I don't know the exact attendance numbers, but it was an absolute sea of people, like in the hundreds of thousands. Yeah. So my guess would be that a lot of people were planning on going to Music Midtown and opted to, take it easy Friday night because they had a big weekend of stuff ahead of them. And, we were trying to aim for a particular age range that, would appeal to the music that we were playing, but that also kind of intersects with, people who would attend a festival like that. So that was one of those things where we had committed to the date before Music Midtown was announced. We were kind of in a rough spot. We should have probably just tried to reschedule, to be honest.
It's kind of like the thing we had at Tailgaters last week where it was really quiet, and it was the first night of the 3-day North Carolina Folk Festival. This was real similar, and it's the kind of thing. That event, the Folk Festival, was scheduled a year in advance. It's not like I couldn't have known that when I booked that date. I just didn't think to look, right? I just didn't cross my mind about what we'd be competing against. And of course, the previous weekend was Labor Day weekend. I talked about this on the last episode about how our last two shows were low. it's a real lesson, and if I didn't learn it from my last 2 weeks, hopefully I'll learn it from you and this Fanny Pack Friday, right? About really looking at what's going on around you and what other events in your market might impact your schedule.
Yeah.
Because I've been habitually blind to that, and it has cost me.
Yeah. So after kind of having, it wasn't a bad night because like we had people there, and the people that were there, it was around 100 people. Like, I'm not going to complain that 100 people paid good money to come see us play. It was just that after production costs and all of those things and the cut that the venue was taking, we just didn't, we didn't cover what we normally covered. Now, Saturday night being a private event, it was on the lower end of our guarantee, which, kind of licking my wounds and doing the numbers and being like, man, I really am not going to have much to show for it this weekend. I reached out to a friend of the show's and was like, would you put a tip jar out at a private event? And his response was, absolutely. If you don't, he's like, I do it at every single show, regardless of whether it's public or private or whatever. If you don't, you're leaving money on the table because people are there and they want to show their appreciation, yada, yada, yada. Yeah. So I brought one. Now, when we got there, there was first of all, I was in this palatial house, like one of those things where like the driveway is like, a mile long and just huge place, crazy pool. We were playing outside, which, was kind of unfortunate because it was so hot and so humid. And they set up a big tent. They had like this massive tent. And they were joking like, oh, we're going to set this tent up and then nothing's going to happen. And then it immediately started pouring after the tent was set up and our stuff was put under it.
Yeah.
So the rain subsides, we get set up and the show itself goes great. I was just as nervous about Saturday night as I was Friday because, there were a lot of songs that these guys hadn't played with us before. We had 2 rehearsals to kind of get through everything, but they on it, like both of the subs put the work in and did a fantastic job, which, makes me feel good. And it was one of those things that I was definitely stressing about and that I just needed to kind of let go of. And now I have 2 more guys that I can call on when, stuff is going on. The bass player is fantastic. He's a good dude. I've known him for a long time. And I think he's a good guy to know because 1, he's a very competent, capable musician. And 2, he doesn't play with anybody. So he's got a technical job doing production for one of the churches that I used to attend. And he's also a music director. So he's a good person to talk to.
Yeah, that's great.
And he was like, this was so much fun. I haven't had this much fun in I can't tell you how long. If you guys need help with anything, just say the word. Like, I do this full time. This is my job. Like, I won't charge you. Like, I want to be a part. And so I took him to task on that. I was like, so, you did 2 gigs with us. Let me know what you think. I will take any information, positive or negative, that you've got. And he's like, I'll have to think about it and I'll get back to you. So, okay, but I'm optimistic that, that things went well. So let me get back to my story. I'm sorry. Yeah. I brought the tip jar. It started raining. It never made it out of the car to where the stage was. So we go through our show and everybody's very complimentary. And it's funny because, there was maybe 20, 30 people at this entire event. And at any time we had a maximum of maybe 5 to 8 people in front of us. But because the number was so much smaller, otherwise, like if you were playing at a club, that would be kind of, a drag. But at a private event, like 8 people up front dancing and having a good time, that's good. Yeah, and so we were feeding off the energy and everybody was super complimentary and had a good time. And at the end of the night, the client tipped us a pretty solid amount. And what it basically did is it made up for the money that I lost on the night before. So basically at the end of the weekend, everybody walked home with the same amount of money.
Okay, good.
So that made up for it. Now, the question is, if I had put a tip jar out, would I have made the same amount of money from the people at the party, or would the client have still felt inclined to tip us at the end of the night?
Wow. It's a good question. How I could see that going is that you would collect some tips, enough to turn the inside of the jar slightly green.
Yep.
And that would have suppressed the host's inclination to bump your pay.
Mm-hmm.
I think you did better not having a jar out.
Yep.
That's my guess.
Yeah. I kind of agree with that. And again, I reached out to my friend and kind of told him that, and he was a little bit, ambivalent about whether that would have been the case or not. But again, that's one of those kind of hypotheticals you really can't, you can't determine.
Yeah. You don't have a control evening, right?
Yeah.
You can't be very scientific about it. I will say, I think that I have no problem putting out a tip jar at a private event. I run it by the organizer first.
Yeah.
I've never had an organizer have a problem with it. I don't think I would do that at a wedding. I never have done it at a wedding. I think that's the one private event I would not put out a tip jar at.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that there because, I mean, they do like I don't know what else to call it, but like the offering where like I've seen them pass the bucket around for the bride and groom for like honeymoon or whatever.
Right.
And some people think that that's tacky. I don't know. There doesn't seem to be a hard and fast rule about any of this stuff.
No. And I have had people walk up and throw money at my feet, when I didn't have a jar out. So, giving them a place to put that's not going to, not going to slip on it or whatever is probably a OSHA matter. But I agree with you that people want there to be some place to express their appreciation. I think a tip jar is a good means of communication between us and the audience. And I don't generally have a problem with it at parties or birthdays or what do you think about corporate events? Probably not.
Yeah.
But a birthday party or something, for sure. I think that's fine.
Now, typically for events, we have giveaways, like just promo stuff that we just hand out. Mm-hmm. And I've seen people want to like pay us for them, but like typically that's just not how that goes. For corporate events, your aim is to kind of like cover as wide a swath as you possibly can.
Sure.
So, our hope is that, and this was a secondary gig. So, the client had seen us at another private event at like a club that they're a member of in June, and then hired us to play this event for this one. Nice. So, nice. And we've already, I think, booked for the next year for that same club event. Whether we come back to their house remains to be seen. But it does give me motivation that like we are starting to see kind of return customers and that we kind of need to start offering things. So, this past Saturday, we played 80s stuff, 90s stuff, and top 40. And I hope that, I was kind of like making a bit of a, hey, by the way, we can do this. We can do any of these, Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Just as a kind of way of marketing and making people aware that like, hey, this is not just a one note deal.
Right.
So another thing that I added, and I don't know if it makes a difference, but I thought it was kind of clever, is I don't know, at some point we had in the band room, we had one of those little light up marquees, mm-hmm. like a battery powered one that's, I don't know, maybe like 12 by 8 or 12 by 10, small portable one. And I had been taking it to the Acoustic gigs with my name on it. But I opted to put our social media contact. So on the little marquee, it said at members only ATL, which was the stage setup for this gig was insane. I couldn't even diagram it if you asked me to. There was a giant concrete flower pot type thing in the middle of where the quote unquote stage was. Wow. But it we made it work and all that, but it was basically right up front. And I saw a lot of people take pictures in front of it, and including, the guys who were subbing for the band. So it felt like it could be a useful tool just for marketing purposes, if for no other reason. Like, a lot of times you go to a venue and you're just hanging out, and maybe, you have a kick drum logo or you have your scrims or whatever, but something lit up on stage when you're not on stage just tends to attract attention.
Sure.
So It just seems like something that could be useful.
No, I think that's smart. I think it's really smart. You never know how many. I mean, part of the point of those handouts is that like tomorrow morning when they get home and they're sobered up, they remember your name and they find you.
Yeah.
So anything that sort of leaves some physical residue of their time with you is a good thing.
Well, yeah, and I'll get pictures every now and then, a picture of people wearing our like our sunglasses, which we probably need to put a new order in, and then we typically give out koozies at private parties and stuff. But this one was a keg party, and I actually went and tested like, do any of the glasses fit in these? So I was like, no. So I ended up saving them. But yeah, typically the koozies are a big hit, especially at a place like if they've got an open bar, you just put them at the bar and people grab them, and it's got our website on it, and it's good branding, and I think they look cool.
Yep.
So
good.
So in the end, having a rough Friday and having a good Saturday meant we had a great weekend.
Excellent. And I always do love a 2-gig weekend. It's hard on me physically, but it's good for the soul to play that much.
Yeah, I my hands, my left hand specifically, was reminded me that, hey, you're not a full-time guitar player anymore.
Yeah. Speaking of, I'm prepping for my first solo acoustic show in a really, really long time, long enough that, literally 20 years probably. I am reminded that playing acoustic feels very different from playing electric for 3 hours. It's a much different physical thing. And I've spent some time prepping and rehearsing and just trying to build those muscles back in my hand, because it's been an awful long time since I played acoustic for that long.
Yeah, start playing like bar chords at like the first and second frets, and you're like, ugh.
Oh yeah, my F and my B flat are just hurting me. I had to like go relearn how to play an open F because I just haven't done one in so long. Just getting that back into my hand as a part of my normal repertoire. Just
make every F an F major 7. There's no bars. It's very jazzy. Yeah. You can just throw that out there.
Yeah, it's good. Anyway, tell me this. What we didn't really plan beforehand to talk about this, but since I'm in the mix of it, when you do solo acoustics, what do you song selection wise? What do you throw in that's surprising? What do you throw in that's unusual and interesting?
So, I would say that I've got songs for other people and songs for me. They're all on the list, but typically there are songs that like I just enjoy performing and singing, and I typically will play those when either it's early in the evening and there's not a lot of people there, or people aren't requesting stuff, or it's just kind of like quiet and there's not a lot going on. That being said, the last acoustic gig I played, a guy came up and requested a song that was a me song that I was really kind of blown away by. The one that immediately jumped to mind is Allison by Elvis Costello.
Oh, that's a good tune.
No one ever requests it except for this one guy, in the, 7 to 10 years it's been on my list. That's always one I kind of play towards the early part of the evening, just is because I just like playing it.
Yeah, I love that song.
And what I've done is there's a, Atlanta guys know who it is, and I'm sure I've brought him up before, but a guy named Butch Walker, who had 2 crazy shows this weekend around Music Midtown, including the one on Sunday with Music Midtown. He released an EP, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, called Cover Me Bad, and he had this really awesome live acoustic version of that song, and that's the version that I learned. It it just kind of translates really well, and
that's cool.
And I play it all the time. But again, it's just one of those that's for me. And there's also some like contemporaries or like, songs that aren't so obscure. I like doing Creedence songs.
Okay.
Like, Have You Ever Seen the Rain is one of my favorite songs to play. Very rarely do I get requests for that. And even, I've got a couple other Creedence songs on my list, but Have You Ever Seen the Rain is my song.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good.
As well as, I love the Eagles. So all the Eagles songs are for me. All the Pink Floyd songs are for me.
Right. Well, listen, I'm the for me on this show that I'm setting up are Radiohead. Actually, I've got High and Dry and Fake Plastic Trees,
Mm-hmm.
and actually Karma Police. As I look through this, that might be a little too much Radiohead. I may have to tone it down on the Radiohead, but I've also got Jam It, Bob Marley.
Mm-hmm.
Find me a more fun song to play than that. Touch of Grey is a winner.
You're just some weird indie rock hippie or something.
I am. Well, I'm also doing In Your Eyes, Peter Gabriel.
It's a good one.
Good one. Okay, I Feel the Earth Move, Carole King.
Okay.
Take me way back, but that one's a lot of fun too. And then I'm doing some modern stuff. I'm doing Redbone,
Mm-hmm.
and let's see, Hit Me Baby One More Time.
Nice.
Which is fun. And 1, 2, 3, 4, Feist.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see. It's been a while since I've sort of dialed in what it is to build a set list for a funk rock dance party band, and I feel like my chops at acoustic set list building are dusty, if they exist at all.
Yeah.
So
is Wagon Wheel on your list?
Oh no.
It should be.
Should it?
Honestly.
Okay, but should it though?
So here's the thing. I don't listen to the radio. I never really have been a big fan of radio. Right now, like in my car, I've got XM and I listen to almost exclusively Volume, which is a talk radio channel that's about music. So it's just people talking about music, which is like the nerdiest thing on the planet.
Well, listen, you make a podcast about music, so
that's true. If you have XM, you should check out Channel 106. It is the nerdiest, greatest channel of all time. But when that song came out, which I think it was probably like 2002, 2003. It was Old Crow Medicine Show's take on that song. And I never, I bought that album and I loved it. I never, ever heard Darius Rucker's version. So I never heard it get played to death. So it's on my list and I honestly love playing that song. It just never, I was also out of the clubs for a long time doing solo stuff. So it just hasn't been beat to death. So in 2018, I can still play Wagon Wheel without a drop of irony. I really do enjoy singing that song.
That's good. You know me. I'm not a song selection snob. But that one I'm a little beaten to death on.
I mean, I get it. I understand why some people don't like it. And I also play some songs that are technically top 40, quote unquote, but may have kind of faded from the pop culture ether. I still play Rude by Magic because it's a great song. It's got kind of it's a reggae kind of feel to it. And it tells a story, it is, by definition, just a good acoustic song to play because there's really not much to it. Right. And it's in a very comfortable chord position. You don't really have to work too hard.
That's good. It's good. It is all about efficiency.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, and you never know how hard, how long it's been since you played until you're in hour 3 of a 4-hour set and you're like, man,
no kidding.
I really need to stretch before I do this.
Yeah.
And then you're like,
my electric chops are totally different from my acoustic chops, like just muscle wise.
Yeah. So I totally cheat. My acoustic is a Taylor T5 Custom, which is set up maybe like a fairly heavy gauge Les Paul. Like I'm playing with 12s, or maybe 11s. They're pretty. They're electric strings. It's the G string's not wound, and it's a thin line. So I mean, it plays like a semi hollow.
Nice.
So. I do have that luxury. I went over to my buddy's house and played one of his parlors, and I was like, "Ugh, this is hard."
Yeah. Well, I have a Seagull SG6 Dreadnought that I really love. Just sounds fantastic.
I need to get one. I need to get a solid beater acoustic that doesn't cost $3,000 to replace.
That's what the Seagull is. I really think Seagull is Godin's acoustic brand, and
they're fantastic.
SG6, it's the best cheap guitar on the market. I'm really happy with it, but it plays like an acoustic. It does not play like an electric at all. So yeah, it's a matter of building some hand strength back because I've atrophied as an acoustic player over all my decades of playing electric. Yeah.
Good stuff, man.
All right.
It's I don't know. Those kind of gigs are fun, or they can be fun. They can also be completely soul sucking. You just have to kind of find the balance of, they are paying me to do this, and it is, I'm getting to play songs I wouldn't normally get to play. Like Members Only is never going to play Creedence Clearwater Revival,
right? And
none of my other bands are going to either. So it's just kind of nice to try something different, and for me, it's an opportunity to kind of connect with songs that like inspired me as a young musician, kind of coming up.
Yeah.
So, but it's
good.
And it can also humble you more than anything else.
Well, you got nobody but yourself. I mean, the thing that I am really working on is just no matter what happens, no matter what chord I miss or whatever, just never dropping the beat.
Mm-hmm.
It's so easy, just fumbled one, and get back into it. And boy, when you do that, it's painful. It's really painful. It's not painful for me when I'm playing. I hardly notice it when I'm playing. But when I hear other people do that when they're playing solo, it's like, oh, man, the whole thing just fell apart.
It's true.
And when I have a drummer and a rhythm section behind me, I don't have to worry about that. They're keeping it going.
Well, you could always use a looper.
I could always use a looper. That's true.
And just kind of chugga on the deal, and then that's your backing track.
Yes.
It's always an option.
Yeah, I have a TC Helicon Voice Live 3 that actually has a very good multi-track looper. It would just be a matter of dedicating some time to it. But
yeah. I've debated that as well. Like I've got one. I've used the looper kind of sparingly. Like I was asked once to do outdoor holiday music in like December in Atlanta, and it wasn't particularly cold, but it's hard to use your hands when it's not optimal degrees. Yeah. And I was playing. They had me playing in the middle of the day at a shopping center during the week, and you can only play so many holiday songs. Like I'm sure there's some guys out there that have a 3-hour holiday set, but I don't.
No.
So what I started doing is, you learn these kind of jazzy progressions, sing your verse, sing the second verse or whatever, sing your bridge, and then just play over those chords. And that's an easy way to kill 14 minutes with Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas.
Right. Especially someplace like a shopping center where the audience is turning itself over every 2 minutes.
Yeah, except for the poor people who are in the boutiques that are going, oh, God.
Yeah, I still play Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas.
Do.
It is about time to start learning that stuff. We have a New Year's Eve gig. I'm going to have to learn Auld Lang Syne.
I mean, do you, though?
Probably.
You could probably learn that Black Eyed Peas song, I Got a Feeling. You could probably do that.
But tonight's going to be a great night.
Yeah. A good night. A good night.
Look, I'm upgrading it.
Tonight's going to be a great night.
It's great.
I like it. Yeah. Everybody should take license. You should take the words of the songs you're covering and completely change them. Nobody hates that. You know what's even better? Go ahead and insert your own political and or religious affiliation in those lyrics. I'm sure no one will notice, and it won't be a problem ever.
You will not be run out of town on a rail.
Nope. People will not stop coming to your shows because you're, a yahoo.
That's right. Look, if they're gonna burn Nike, logos.
We are an apolitical show, but seriously.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think the point is people take stuff really seriously.
They do.
You just got to be aware of that.
Oh, so let's go ahead and take a hard right turn because we were talking about learning new songs.
Yes.
So it's September. The next month is obviously October. Mm-hmm. Do you guys change up your set list for Halloween themed stuff?
I have a couple that I poke in there. We have in the past done the Monster Mash.
Mm-hmm.
I often will throw in I Put a Spell on You, which I put late in the evening because I can't not do the full Screamin' Jay Hawkins on that thing. It's necessary.
Now, do you put the bone in your nose and everything, or?
I have there are costumes that I wear. That one's not. I feel I'm not ethnically prepared to.
That's fair.
I think it would make a strange
culturally
statement.
sensitive. I can dig that.
Trying to be. The other thing, of course, is we have now this giant Abraham Lincoln puppet.
Yep.
Clanky Lincoln puppet that is a perfect Halloween addition to a Halloween show. So I don't know what our plan is about that. Lincolns actually don't have any shows right around Halloween, but I am playing Halloween night with Viva La Muerte. So
I'm sure there's some sort of creative thing that you guys are going to do for that.
I'm quite sure. You know, we the show we did with them, with both bands in April, was a costume party that we billed as Halloween in April. And people really just dug into that costume party thing. It was great. So yeah, it's a fun bunch of guys that do guys and a girl who do theme stuff well. So we'll see.
So for us, luckily, the 80s, something about 80s and Halloween just go together.
It's all the same nostalgia trip. Isn't it
really is. So we'll be pulling out quite that's the thing, is that there's probably like 5 to 12 songs that we'll add. Thriller, obviously.
Sure.
I Just Died in Your Arms. It's a good one. We do that one all the time anyway. Ghostbusters. I mean, come on. And actually we've got buddies in the cosplay world. The Atlanta Ghostbusters are friends of ours, and typically, if they're coming to a show, they're like, hey, we're coming, so we'll put it in the set list. And then they walk in with all of their gear on, and then they get free drinks all night.
That's great. That's great.
Let's see. Who else? Somebody's Watching Me. Rockwell.
Sure.
What else? The one that I want to add this year is Dead Man's Party by Oingo Boingo.
I love that song. If I could get away with playing it with a 4-piece guitar, I would so do it.
Okay, so offline, I'm going to send you one. So there's and that's the reason why we haven't done it up to this point, is that, the Oingo Boingo version is just heavily orchestrated. But a while ago, I can't remember what label did it, but there was, have you ever heard of the Punk Goes Pop series? Mm-hmm. Well, they did a Punk Goes 80s, I don't know, it's probably at least 10 years ago. And there was a band that did an all, electric rock band version of Dead Man's Party that we will more than likely be using as our kind of starting off point.
Okay. Love it.
So yeah, there's no horns, there's no keys. It's just all guitar. And it also is arranged a lot easier. Cause that's the other issue with Oingo Boingo stuff, is that the structures are insane.
Structures are nuts.
Yeah. So that is one of the fun things about being in a band like ours, is that there are a lot of choices to make.
Yeah.
And then actually last year we did Thriller cover to cover for it wasn't a private event, but it was a ticketed event.
Fun.
And I remember them thinking that was a really great idea, and then we were like, "Are you sure?" And they were not sure. And then they found out that, like, oh wow, there's a lot of really draggy slow jams on this record.
Yeah.
So we ended up doing it in a different order. We did like the first two, and then we kind of broke it up with some more Halloween themed stuff. And we ended with Thriller, but it was like PYT, like the last four were PYT, Let's Go Crazy by Prince, Beat It, Ghostbusters, and Thriller. Good. Which is a pretty solid set. But the first half, and we cut out Lady in My Life.
Good.
Because it's just too slow.
Good. How about The Girl Is Mine?
Girl Is Mine was right slap dab in the middle. So it was like, want to be starting something, baby be mine. We did Somebody's Watching Me by Rockwell, and then we did The Girl Is Mine.
Okay.
It's a great song, but again, like, do you really want to stand there and watch a band play it?
Yeah, no.
And there's another, Yacht Rock Review does it every year.
Sure, sure. It's perfect for them.
But I actually got that idea from the fact that they do the same thing. They do it out of order. They do it with a bunch of songs in between, because again, people think they want to hear Thriller, but they don't know what Thriller is. No. They want to hear Billie Jean. They want to hear Beat It. They want to hear Thriller. That's what they want to hear.
Yep.
It's just, the problem is there's 5 other songs in that record.
Yeah. And some of them are killer. I mean, PYT is a great song.
Sure. Well, and I mean, and again, we want to be starting something, but again, it's 8 minutes long.
Yeah, you can't do the whole. You can do the whole thing. It's just,
you can, and people do, but you're going to do almost a solid 45 seconds to a minute of Mama Say, Mama Sa, Mamaku sauce.
Yeah, and if you get the audience going on that, it's fun. I've done that.
Yeah, but if they're not, then you're just flailing in the wind.
It's deadly. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and and as soon as we're done with that, you got to learn all those 10-cent chords, all those sevens and major ninths and diminishes, and to do all that Bing Crosby junk. But it's all good.
Yep.
That's what they pay us the big bucks for.
That's right.
Or the small bucks.
Just don't play for no bucks.
That's right. Don't play for no bucks. That's going to be our new t-shirt.
I like it.
Yeah.
Write that down.
Write that down. It's the theme of this episode. So thank you guys for tuning in and continuing to tune in. Our numbers are pretty consistent. What I would love is if you, anybody who is listening to this right now, write this down.
Write this down.
Because again, this is the theme. Share this with your bandmates, because if everybody's bandmates are listening to this, then there are literally like 12 bands who listen to this podcast. I would love it if everybody who listens to this podcast would commit to sharing this with your bandmates. I would love to see what would happen.
Yeah.
So for those of you who have reached out to us directly, or those of you who are just kind of passively participating and lurking in our subscription, I want you to actively share this episode with your with the guys in your band and see where it goes. And for those guys, I want you to share it with your band, because you're obviously in more than one band, more than likely. And I just want to see if we can, organically spread this thing out a little bit.
Yeah.
Because you guys are all over the world now. And, we'd love to continue to help people go further, faster with their businesses, and, partner with you guys. So reach out, share us with other people, and, continue to support us. We really appreciate it. But that's going to do it for this week. From here in Atlanta, Georgia, I am Adam Johnson.
From Greensboro, North Carolina, I'm Dan Ray.
You have been listening to the Cover Band Confidential Podcast, episode 24. Have a good week.